Good evening to all. Good evening to all. I hope I am audible to you. Hello everybody. Good evening to all. I hope I am audible to you. I hope I am audible to you. Good evening to all. Good evening to all. I hope I am audible to you. Please let me know in the comment box if I am audible. Good evening to all. I hope I am audible to you. I think I am audible. So yesterday we have started cardiovascular system yesterday, and what we have seen yesterday, I would like to revise in a short and then we will start. Okay. So yesterday we have started our cardiovascular system, that is circulatory system or cardiovascular system. So we have seen what is a normal function of cardiovascular system, overview of cardiovascular system, parts of your heart and organs associated with the heart. So at the inferior of heart you have diaphragm, on the superior of your heart you have the basement of these blood vessels, and heart is lying in the lungs. Okay, so we have seen the structure of your heart. We have seen the structure of your heart, right side, left side, different layers on your heart, epicardium, pericardium, myocardium and endocardium. We have seen so layers of heart. We have seen the actions of heart. What do you mean by chronotropic action? What do you mean by inotropic action? What do you mean by dromotropic action? What do you mean by bathymotropic action? What do you mean by lucitropic action? So chrono is related with the heartbeat, means heart rate. Chrono means heart rate. That will though anybody. Okay. Chrono means heart rate. So drug which increases the heart rate known as a positive chronotropic. Drug which decreases known as a negative chronotropic. Now inotropic means force of contraction. A drug which increases the force of contraction known as a positive inotropic. Drug which decreases the force of contraction known as a negative inotropic. Dromotropic means conduction velocity. So drug which increases the conduction across the your conduction system of heart known as positive dromotropic. So those drug which depresses the conduction known as a negative dromotropic. Just say for example antiarrhythmic drugs, they decrease the conduction conduction of heart, so they are negative dromotropic. Okay. Bathymotropic is related with the excitability of cardiac muscle, and lucitropic means relaxation function of your heart. After that we have seen the blood vessels. So blood vessels we have seen, so layers on blood vessel as like your cardiovascular system. जैसे आपका हार्ट का लेयर होता है ना, हार्ट में भी होता है ना पेरिकार्डियम, मायोकार्डियम एंड एंडोकार्डियम. पेरिकार्डियम मतलब आउटर मोस्ट फाइब्रस लेयर, मायोकार्डियम मतलब मिडल मस्कुलर लेयर एंड एंडोकार्डियम मतलब इनर स्मूथ लेयर, है ना. So likewise that your blood vessel also has 3 layers: tunica externa, tunica media, tunica intima. Tunica externa is also known as a tunica adventitia. Tunica adventitia, right? Tunica adventitia, tunica media, tunica intima. So we have seen the different layers of blood vessel. Blood vessel are of two type. Blood vessel दो type का होता है आपका, है ना. We have blood vessel of two type. First one is artery and second one is a vein. Arteries and veins, right? So arteries and veins, so they differ in their structure, they differ in their function, right? We have seen that. And artery will become a smaller to form arterioles. Arterioles become a smaller to form a capillaries, and this arterial capillary or arterial capillary will unite with the venular capillary. Venular capillary will be converted to venules, then veins, and then major vein, that is a superior inferior vena cava, right? So we have seen the difference between the blood vessels. Okay, difference in the blood vessel. Now as I told you, cardiovascular system or your heart has some sort of autonomy. So it is autonomous. Autonomous in the sense it will start beating. So heart will beat, heart will start contracting, or heart will start the beating by its own, because your heart is has a autonomy, is a auto-regulatory, Why? Because heart has a one capacity, heart muscle has a capacity to generate an impulse, to transmit an impulse. So it is self-excitatory. तो जो हार्ट मसल होता है, इट इज अ सेल्फ एक्साइटरी. तो हार्ट विल स्टार्ट and heart will stop when there is a problem in the heart muscle. Otherwise, you don't have nervous control on your heart. You cannot increase your heartbeat, you cannot decrease your heartbeat as per your will. It is not under voluntary control. है ना, तुझे देख के दिल मेरा धड़का, है ना, आप बोलते हो ना, तुझे देख के मेरा दिल धड़का है ना, तो ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता है. तो हार्ट इज नॉट अंडर योर विल. तो हार्ट विल बीट बाय इट्स ओन. हार्ट को जब जैसे बीट करना है वैसे बीट करेगा, है ना, किसी को देख के हार्ट बीट नहीं करता है. तो हार्ट हैज सम सॉर्ट ऑफ ऑटोनॉमी and we have seen the difference between blood vessels also yesterday, but definitely nervous control is there. So under sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, heart rate, force of contraction can be increased or decreased as per the body's need, not for anybody's else. Right now, blood vessels has a 3 layers: outer tunica adventitia or tunica externa. The middle layer is a muscular layer, tunica media. Inner layer is a smooth layer known as smooth layer, tunica interna. Now blood vessel, है ना, तो larger blood vessel, for example artery जो है आपका larger blood vessel, the major artery is aorta. The major artery is aorta. Aorta has a elastic tissue. Aorta has a elastic tissue. Aorta has a more elastic tissue than muscular tissue. तो बड़ा वाला आर्टरी होता है aorta. Aorta has a elastic tissue, more elastic tissue than muscular tissue. But your arterioles means smaller arteries. They are having muscular tissue. They are having middle layer muscular. So arteries are known as a capacity. Arteries known as a resistant blood vessel because they will resist the फ्लो ऑफ ब्लड फ्लो को रेजिस्ट करेंगे, इसलिए उनको रेजिस्टेंट ब्लड वेसल बोलते हैं. नाउ आर्टरी जो है, सो एज दे आर नोन एज अ रेजिस्टेंट ब्लड वेसल, आर्टरीज आर नोन एज अ रेजिस्टेंट ब्लड वेसल, so they regulate the blood pressure. Arteries also regulate the blood pressure. So because of the constriction of blood vessel and dilation of blood vessel, they also control the blood pressure. अगर peripheral blood vessels means arteries, if they are constricted, so what will happen? They will offer a more resistance. That resistance is known as a peripheral resistance. So resistance offered by arterioles for the flow of blood is known as a peripheral resistance. Right? So blood vessels diameter can be controlled by vasomotor center. पर blood vessel का diameter जो है, that is controlled, that is innervated with the vasomotor nerves fiber. So vasomotor center is present in the brain, in the medulla oblongata. The nerve arising from the medulla oblongata innervated by autonomic nervous system that is supplied to blood vessel muscle. The smooth muscles of blood vessel, they are supplied with the vasomotor center. मतलब जैसे blood pressure कम होगा है, तो vasomotor center will react and it will constrict the blood vessel, so that the peripheral resistance will increase and cardiac output increase, blood pressure will increase. Right now, so diameter of arteries and blood vessels are controlled by vasomotor center in medulla oblongata of brain. You have a vasomotor center. From that, nerves are arising and nerves are supplied to a blood vessels. Right now, दूसरा होता है, again blood vessel can control the diameter by releasing the metabolic waste. For example, carbon dioxide, lactic acid. So increase in the carbon dioxide, lactic acid in the blood and in the tissue, so will dilate the blood vessel. They will dilate the blood vessel. so that more blood will be supplied to tissue. Hypoxia, less oxygen in the blood, also stimulate the vasodilation and increases the blood flow in the affected tissue. Temperature, increase in the temperature also causes the vasodilation. Blood supply to the skeletal muscle will be increased as much as 24 during the heavy exercise. इन लीटर होता है 24 लीटर. Exchange of gases takes place in the tissue by the diffusion. Exchange of gases takes place between the cells, tissues and blood by diffusion. Exchange of nutrient, and that takes place by osmosis, etc. Osmosis. Okay. Now blood vessels we have completed. Now we will see the next part. You can see over here. So this is a normal blood vessel, resting blood vessel, baseline or resting blood vessel. You know, the diameter of this blood vessel is normal now. You can see this is known as the lumen, under the part, and ये क्या है wall, vessel wall. Now this artery is supplied with the sympathetic nerve ending, sympathetic nerve fiber, and right now right. So at this case, in this scenario, sympathetic stimulation is no, or you can say moderate stimulation. यहाँ पे smooth muscle क्या है? So you have normal muscle tone in the blood vessel. Thickness of wall is also moderate. Diameter of lumen is moderate, and peripheral resistance is also moderate. Now, vasoconstriction मतलब क्या? Constriction of blood vessel. Vasoconstriction मतलब क्या? Constriction of blood vessel. You can see over here, the lumen of blood vessel is decreased because of the constriction of constriction of smooth muscles of blood vessel under the influence of sympathetic nervous system. So adrenaline, noradrenaline, they will constrict the blood vessel. What will happen? So sympathetic stimulation is increased, it will cause vasoconstriction, and smooth muscles of blood vessel is contracted, and the vessel wall is thicker, lumen is decreased, and peripheral resistance is increased. Peripheral resistance is increased. Right. Now आपको एक फॉर्मूला याद रखना है, ब्लड प्रेशर is equal to cardiac output into peripheral resistance, PR, peripheral resistance. So blood pressure is equal to cardiac output into peripheral resistance. So whenever cardiac output is increased, blood pressure will increase. Now, whenever peripheral resistance will be increased, the blood pressure will be increased. So blood pressure क्या है? It is a product of cardiac output and peripheral resistance. जो भी एजेंट, जो भी फैक्टर कार्डियक आउटपुट को इंक्रीज करेगा, है ना, those factor which will increase the cardiac output increase the blood pressure. Blood pressure is nothing but the product of peripheral resistance and cardiac output. Cardiac output is equal to, blood pressure is equal to cardiac output into peripheral resistance. So anything that will increase the cardiac output will increase the blood pressure. Anything that will increase the peripheral resistance will increase the blood pressure. So sympathetic nervous system or stimulation or activity, increase in the activity of sympathetic nervous system will cause vasoconstriction, will increase the peripheral resistance, will increase the blood pressure. Right. Now, in case of vasodilation, so vasodilation, so decrease in the sympathetic outflow, will decrease the smooth muscle contraction, that leads to vasodilation. यहाँ पे vasodilation, sympathetic stimulation यहाँ पे decreased, and the smooth muscle are relaxed. The thickness of wall is thin, and diameter of lumen is increased. So obviously this peripheral resistance is decreased. right? Whenever peripheral resistance is increased, blood pressure will increase. Whenever peripheral resistance will increase, blood pressure will increase. Whenever peripheral resistance will decrease, blood pressure will decrease. So blood vessels are also playing an important role in the regulation of blood pressure. Blood vessels are also play important role in the regulation of blood pressure. क्योंकि blood pressure क्या होता है? It is a pressure exerted by blood on the wall of arteries. On the wall of arteries. So because of the vasoconstriction, there is a decreased lumen. Lumen क्या होगा इसका? Diameter of lumen will be decreased. So more pressure will be exerted on the blood vessel. So that's why vasoconstriction leads to increase in the blood pressure. Vasodilation leads to decrease in the blood pressure. Because यह concept आपको यहाँ भी समझ में आना चाहिए. Because we are using vasodilators in case of blood pressure. We are using vasodilators in case of blood pressure. Why? Because vasoconstriction leads to increase in the blood pressure. If you are suffering from blood pressure, you have to dilate the blood vessel. That's it. Right? So that's how blood pressure will control, by controlling the lumen or controlling the smooth muscles of blood vessels. Sympathetic nervous system stimulate हो गया, noradrenaline release हो जाएगा. Noradrenaline will come to the blood vessel. You have alpha receptor over there. So stimulation of alpha receptor causes the constriction of smooth muscles of blood vessel. Will increase the peripheral resistance, will increase the blood pressure, right? So decrease in the sympathetic tone, will decrease the muscular contraction and will increase the lumen because of the vasodilation, alpha 2 receptor, and the lumen will be increased and peripheral resistance will be decreased, blood pressure will be decreased, right? Next part we'll see. So diseases of the blood vessel. The blood vessel है उसका diseases क्या है? Disease of the blood vessel. Now first one is arteriosclerosis. So arteriosclerosis बोलते हैं. Arteriosclerosis or atherosclerosis. So what is that? Atherosclerosis or arteriosclerosis is nothing but the, suppose this one is your blood vessel. आपको blood vessel है. This one is your blood vessel known as an artery. This one is your blood vessel known as an artery, right? So it is elastic in nature. The lumen of this blood vessel can be increased or decreased because you have muscular layer in the blood vessel. Blood vessel का जो lumen है वो कम ज़्यादा होता है. क्यों होता है कम ज़्यादा? Because जो middle layer होता है उसमें muscular layer होता है ना, tunica media. So that smooth muscles are supplied or innervated with the sympathetic nervous system. That's how there can be control. Or locally some vasodilators, जैसे nitric oxide, carbon dioxide, prostaglandin, they also dilate the blood. So because of the influence of adrenergic nervous system and because of the influence of local vasodilator, vasoconstrictor, so lumens of arteries can be increased or decreased, okay, depending upon the body's need. जैसे बॉडी को नीड है वैसे, राइट? नाउ सपोज दिस इज अ फ्लेक्सिबल ब्लड वेसल. यू से इट इज अ फ्लेक्सिबल ब्लड वेसल. ये क्या है? फ्लेक्सिबल क्यों है? जैसे जब है ना इसका ल्यूमेन कम ज़्यादा होता है तो फ्लेक्सिबल है, राइट? नाउ सपोज दैट इफ देयर इज इंक्रीज्ड कोलेस्ट्रॉल इन योर बॉडी, अगर कोलेस्ट्रॉल बढ़ गया तो कोलेस्ट्रॉल यहाँ पे डिपोजिट है. सपोज दैट दिस इज अ कोलेस्ट्रॉल डिपोजिट. दिस इज अ कोलेस्ट्रॉल डिपोजिशन. यहाँ पे कोलेस्ट्रॉल डिपोजिट हो गया तो ब्लड वेसल का ल्यूमेन क्या हो गया? ब्लड वेसल का ल्यूमेन नैरो हो गया. तो यही कोलेस्ट्रॉल डिपोजिशन बढ़ते हैं और बढ़ के इतना डिपोजिट हो गया, इतना सारा डिपोजिट कोलेस्ट्रॉल हुआ, ल्यूमेन इज डिक्रीज्ड. नाउ ब्लड मस्ट बी सप्लाइड टू दिस एरिया, राइट? सो व्हाट हैपन? सो ब्लड इज फोर्स्ड टू मोर प्रेशर और यहाँ पे this is known as a plaque. This is known as a arteriosclerotic plaque. Deposition of cholesterol in the blood vessel. Okay. So because of this plaque, blood vessel is harder and thicken. So arteriosclerosis means what? Hardening and thickening and loss of elasticity of arteries. So it is because of the Atherosclerosis is nothing but the narrowing of the opening of blood vessel due to deposition of cholesterol plaque, and later on this is broken down, यहाँ से bleeding होता है. And if this atherosclerosis is there in a brain, अगर ये आपके ब्रेन में होता है, ये ब्रेन में क्या है, ब्रेन में you have small blood vessel. If atherosclerotic plaque in the brain and if it ruptures, it leads to stroke. यहाँ पे स्ट्रोक हो जाएगा, आपको पैरालिसिस हो जाएगा. ठीक है. Now if this plaque is in a heart, coronary artery, if this plaque is in a coronary artery of your heart, coronary artery अगर है, that leads to coronary artery disease or heart attack. Atherosclerosis. Hypertension means what? So due to increased hypertension means blood pressure more than normal. So if you are having blood pressure more than normal, means hypertension. Hypertension means less than normal, right? So due to increased tone and contraction of smooth muscle of the arterioles, that also leads to hypertension. So hypertension is also because of the disease of blood में कोई blood vessel में कोई दिक्कत आया, hypertension हो सकता है. Atherosclerosis हो सकता है because of deposition of atherosclerosis is because of the deposition of cholesterol in the blood vessel, that leads to, if blood vessel is occluded in the brain, that leads to stroke. If blood vessel is occluded in the heart, leads to heart attack, right? Hypertension is also another reason because of the disease of blood. Edema क्यों होता है? Edema means सूजन. So edema क्यों होता है? Due to increased permeability of capillaries. जो small blood vessels थे, capillaries, increase the permeability of capillaries, है ना? तो वहाँ पे क्या होगा? There is an increased permeability of water and extracellular fluid will be accumulated. This is known as a edema. Okay. Now thrombosis is a disease of your blood vessel. Thrombosis क्या होता है? Formation of blood clot. जैसे मैंने बोला, यहाँ पे क्या है कि अर्थेरोस्क्लेरोटिक प्लेक है, यहाँ पे जो ब्लड फ्लो हो रहा है, ब्लड सेल इसके ऊपर क्या होंगे? अडियर होंगे. There might be development of clot. So clot formation in the vein, that is known as thrombosis, and the movement of that clot from one place to another place known as thromboembolism. Right. Now major types of circulation कितना है? Major type of circulation. I hope I am audible to you. Major types of circulation. So first one is a major or greater circulation, also known as general circulation. Major circulation or greater circulation or general circulation. The circulation of blood from the left side of your heart to the all body through a blood vessel. What is a major circulation, greater circulation? Second होता है pulmonary circulation or also known as minor or lesser circulation. The blood flow from right ventricle of your heart to the lungs known as a pulmonary or minor circulation or lesser circulation for the purification of blood. Now what is portal circulation? So flow of blood from gut to the liver. GIT से लेके liver तक blood flow होता है, उसको बोलते हैं अपन portal circulation, right? So remember, major circulation, minor circulation, portal circulation, important. So yesterday I have told you normal weight of your heart with the woman 225 gram, in the man 310 gram. तो है ना, आदमी का हार्ट मजबूत होता है, वेट ज़्यादा है ना उसका. औरत क्या होती है? कमज़ोर दिल वाली होती है, अपन बड़े दिल वाले हैं. मेंस और ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता, लेकिन you can see. Now you have three layers of covering on heart. Pericardium is outermost layer. In between pericardium there are three layers: outer pericardium, middle and inner. So in between inner and middle there is a pericardial fluid which acts as a lubricant for heart. It is secreted by serous membrane. Serous membrane in an inner layer, and fibrous pericardium is the outer layer. So that myocardium is there, known as a muscular layer. It is not under voluntary control. So specialized cardiac muscles are there. In the arteria, specialized cardiac muscle also secrete one natriuretic peptide ANP, which is which decreases the heart rate. ANP क्या है? Is a natural drug which is used as a antiarrhythmic. Natural peptide which is used in the arrhythmia. अगर हार्ट रेट बढ़ गया है या फिर आपका अरिथमिया हो गया है, सो इट विल डिक्रीज दैट. नेचुरली एट्रिया से आपको एक पेप्टाइड रिलीज होता है, नाट्रियोटिक पेप्टाइड ANP, एट्रियल नाट्रियोटिक पेप्टाइड. एंडोकार्डियम इज इनर लेयर ऑफ हार्ट. लार्जेस्ट वेन कौन सा होता है? सुपीरियर एंड इंफीरियर वेना का दे आर द लार्जेस्ट वेन, राइट. नाउ as I told you, your heart has some sort of autonomy. So in the heart you have specialized cells. ये muscular cells नहीं होते, they are the electrically active, electrically unstable cell होते हैं, ऐसे नोट. So particular group of cell present just to the left, just to the right atrium. Right atrium जो होता है हार्ट का, तो right atrium of your heart, it has some another non-contractible cells. In the right atrium of your heart you have collection of cells which are having electrically unstable. They has a capacity to generate the impulse. ऐसे नोड में क्या होता है, एक पर्टिकुलर टाइप ऑफ सेल होते हैं जो इम्पल्स जनरेट करते हैं और वो इम्पल्स एट्रिया में पास करते हैं फॉर द कॉन्ट्रैक्शन ऑफ एट्रियल मसल. वही इम्पल्स बाद में ट्रांसमिट होके एवी नोड में जाता है, दैट इज नोन एज आर्टरियोवेंट्रिकुलर नोड, और बाद में कंडक्शन सिस्टम ऑफ हार्ट, बंडल ऑफ हीज, देन Purkinje फाइबर एंड देन वेंट्रिकल्स. ठीक है. तो ऐसे नोड, इट इज अ बंच ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिकली एक्टिव सेल, इलेक्ट्रिकली अनस्टेबल सेल, so which generates an impulse around 60 to 80 times per minute, 60 to 80 impulse per minute, known as a pacemaker of your heart. The pacemaker of your heart. So your heartbeat is regulated by pacemaker. Heartbeat कौन regulate करता है? Pacemaker. So SA node is a collection of cell which is electrically active, which will generate and transmit an impulse through the atria, through the AV node to the ventricles, right? For the contraction. SA node is known as a pacemaker of your heart, and it will generate an impulse around 60 to 80 times per minute. There is a highest capacity to generate an impulse. AV node is also having capacity to generate the impulse, but at a slower rate. ये सबसे ज़्यादा हायर रेट से जनरेट करता है SA node. Now AV node, so slower than SA node, it generates impulse 40 to 60 beats per minute, and main function of AV node is nothing but to transmit the impulse generated by SA node. SA node से जो impulse होता है उसको transmit करने का काम किसका है? AV node का, और यहाँ पे slow करता है वो impulse, है ना. Though SA node has a capacity to generate the impulse, but AV node को भी capacity है, but ये 40 to 60 beats per minute, और in absence of SA node, AV node becomes pacemaker. SA node का काम नहीं चल रहा है तो AV node कर देगा. तो AV node, SA node both have vagus nerve supplied. Vagus nerve क्या है? Vagus nerve is nothing but the cholinergic nerve, the parasympathetic nerve. So it is a cholinergic nerve which will suppress the SA node, AV node, so which will decrease the stimulation of vagus nerve, result in the decrease in the heart rate and force of contraction. Now cardiac cycle. Cardiac cycle means what? क्या होता है cardiac cycle? Cardiac cycle is nothing but the sequence of event. आपका heart beat होता है, तो in a 1 minute your heart will beat around 60 to 80. Your heart will beat around 60 to 80. In 1 minute your heart will beat around 60 to 80 beats per minute. So as per the SA node जितना impulse generate करता है उतना contact होगा, right? So average is taken around 70 to 74 beats per minute. Okay. Now, so cardiac cycle is nothing but the event of heart in which a one cycle of contraction and relaxation of heart. A one cycle of contraction and relaxation of heart is known as a cardiac cycle. So cardiac cycle is completed in a 0.8 second. 0.8 second. इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन भी ऑलरेडी आ चुका है. कार्डियक साइकिल इज कंप्लीटेड इन 0.8 सेकंड. इसमें आर्टेरियल सिस्टोल मतलब एट्रियम कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होगा. एट्रियल सिस्टोल एट्रियम कॉन्ट्रैक्शन, वेंट्रिकुलर सिस्टोल वेंट्रिकल्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होंगे. देयर आर टू टर्म, सिस्टोल एंड डायस्टोल. सिस्टोल मीन्स कॉन्ट्रैक्शन, diastole means relaxation. There are two terms, systole and diastole. Systole means what? Contraction of heart muscle. Diastole means what? Relaxation of heart muscle. Right? Now, atrial systole means what? Atrial muscle will be contracted in a 0.1 second. Then after that, ventricular systole will be there. Ventricles will be contracted in a 0.3 second. And remaining 0.4 second is a complete cardiac diastole. Complete cardiac diastole मतलब क्या? यहाँ पे हार्ट आपका रिलैक्स होगा and it will prepare for next cycle. So this cycle is completed. एक के बाद हार्ट बीट होता है ना, so like that. So one cardiac cycle is nothing but the one beat and one relaxation. क्वेश्चन ऑलरेडी इसके ऊपर आ चुका है. Now ECG मतलब क्या? इलेक्ट्रोकार्डियोग्राम. ECG means electrocardiogram. So you know that your heart is electrically active, impulse is generated, impulse is transmitted, right? And your body is also made up from organic substances and minerals and water, which will also conduct the electric production that can be measured. So electrical activity of heart can be measured by placing electrodes on your chest and arm. आपके हाथ में और चेस्ट पे इलेक्ट्रोड लगा के ईसीजी आपका कर लो सकते हैं. तो सो ईसीजी विल बी देयर. इलेक्ट्रिकल एक्टिविटी कैन बी मेजर्ड एंड कन्वर्टेड इनटू रीडेबल फॉर्म. तो इट विल कंप्राइज ऑफ PQRST वेव. तो ईसीजी आपने अगर देखा होता, यू विल हैव PQRST वेव्स इन द ईसीजी. तो P वेव किसका है? P वेव corresponds to impulse generated up from the AC node. P wave means what? P wave means it is nothing but the atrial systole. आपका atrium contract होता है, atrium contract होता है, auricle contract होता है. That is a P wave. Then atrial, because of the atrial deposition. Then QRS complex is nothing but the due to rapid spread of this impulse to a AV node bundle of his Purkinje fiber that causes depolarization of your ventricles. It is a ventricular contraction. So पहला है P wave, atrial contraction, QRST wave, ventricular contraction, and T wave is nothing but the ventricular repolarization or ventricular relaxation. है ना? तो PQRST wave. P wave because of the impulse generation or auricular atrium contraction. QRST wave is because of the closing of your atrioventricular valve, mitral valve, aortic seminal valve, because of the closure of different valves. Now you can see over here cardiac cycle question आ चुका है इसके ऊपर, so that's why we have taken it 2-3 times. So cardiac cycle is of 0.8 second. एक cardiac cycle मतलब one event of contraction and relaxation is of 0.8 second. Out of that, atrial systole मतलब के contraction. Atria will contracted in a 0.1 second. Atrial contraction, atrial systole. Ventricular systole will be 0.3 second, and complete cardiac diastole will be 0.4 second. You can see over here also. Yeah. Atrial systole, red area. Atrial systole is completed in a 0.1 second. Ventricular systole ये 0.3 सेकंड का आता है, यहाँ तक 0.3 सेकंड, 0.3, 0.1, 0.4. Complete cardiac diastole is 0.4 second. Right? In between that, atria also relaxes. So atrial dilation or atrial diastole is also there. In the ventricular diastole. इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन ऑलरेडी आ चुके हैं. You can see what are the events of cardiac cycle. Events of cardiac cycle. Right. So first, atrial systole. Atria will contract and small amount of blood that will be sent to ventricle. Right. Atria contract होता है, atria ये करता है ventricle. Simultaneously. Then isometric contraction. All the valves are closed. Ventricles undergo isometric contraction. Pressure in the ventricle will be increased. यहाँ पे valve close हो चुका है, ventricle contract. Then ejection period. Now ventricles will contract forcefully. Similar valve are opened, ventricles contract and blood is ejected. Now protodiastole. Protodiastole मतलब क्या है? This is the first stage of diastole. The semilunar valve are closed and at the end of this period. In isometric relaxation, यहाँ पे ventricles क्या होंगे? Relax में. And again then rapid filling of ventricles due to contraction of atria. This cycle is continuing as a cardiac cycle. We have seen the heart structure, flow of blood. देखो यहाँ पे this one is known as right atrium. So blood flow from upper part of your body, so deoxygenated blood from upper part of your body will be carried to a superior vena cava, and from lower part of your body, inferior vena cava, they will drain the content in the right atrium. तो impure blood आएगा right atrium में, right atrium से blood जाएगा आपका right ventricle में, right ventricle से blood जाएगा आपका pulmonary vein में, right and left to the lungs for purification. वहाँ से प्यूरिफाई होके pulmonary artery से ब्लड जाएगा और वहाँ से प्यूरिफाई होके pulmonary vein से आएगा ब्लड, आएगा लेफ्ट एट्रियम में, लेफ्ट एट्रियम से राइट, लेफ्ट एट्रियम से लेफ्ट वेंट्रिकल में जाएगा, वहाँ से कॉन्टैक्ट होके यहाँ पे बॉडी को जाएगा. और ये दोनों ऑरिकुलर कंडक्शन एंड वेंट्रिकुलर कंडक्शन साइमल्टेनियसली होता है. मतलब ऐसा नहीं कि एक लेफ्ट एट्रियम कॉन्टैक्ट होगा फिर बाद में वेंट्रिकल बाद में. तो लेफ्ट एट्रियम एंड राइट एट्रियम, left and right atrium contract simultaneously, left and right ventricle contracts simultaneously, right? This we have seen yesterday. So pericardium मतलब क्या? Serous membrane on the surface of myocardium. Right? Myocardium मतलब क्या? Middle muscular layer of heart that will form a fourth chamber, also known as a heart. Heart है ना? Also known as a heart of heart muscle. मायोसाइट्स. मायोकार्डियम में कौन से सेल होंगे? मायोसाइट्स. मायोसाइट्स आर देयर इन मायोकार्डियम. एंडोकार्डियम मतलब इनर लेयर, स्मूथ होता है. तो एंडोथेलियम दैट लाइज चेंबर एंड कवर्स द वॉल्स, दे आर आल्सो स्मूथ टू प्रिवेंट द ब्लड क्लॉटिंग. राइट एट्रियम क्या है? इट विल रिसीव द डीऑक्सीजनेटेड ब्लड फ्रॉम बॉडी टू वेना cava. Tricuspid wall, it is in between the right atrium and right ventricle. That's why known as the atrioventricular valve. इसका काम क्या होता है? To prevent the backflow of blood when ventricles are contracted. है ना? वेंट्रिकल जब कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होता है तो बैक फ्लो नहीं होना चाहिए, वेंट्रिकल से ऑरिकल में नहीं जाना चाहिए, वेंट्रिकल से जाना चाहिए पल्मोनरी आर्टरी में. ठीक है. राइट वेंट्रिकल है ना, from the blood to the lungs via pulmonary artery. Pulmonary semilunar valve. Semi मतलब आधा, lunar मतलब क्या? चांद है ना, मतलब मून. Semilunar मतलब आधा मून. So they are the half curve valves, right? So they prevent the backflow of blood from pulmonary artery to the right ventricle when right ventricle will contract. लेफ्ट एट्रियम क्या है? लेफ्ट एट्रियम receives oxygenated blood from the lung through pulmonary veins. Mitral valve is between left atrium and left ventricle. So left ventricular valve, also known as a bicuspid valve. और ये जो ट्राइकस्पिड है उसको आर्टरियो वेंट्रिकुलर बोलते हैं, बाइकस्पिड को मिट्रल वाल्व बोलते हैं. लेफ्ट वेंट्रिकल will pump the blood into aorta for the various body tissues. Aortic semilunar valve will prevent the backflow of blood from arterioventricular valve to the left ventricle when left ventricle relaxes. Fibrous skeleton of heart क्या है? Fibrous skeleton anchoring 4 heart valve. हार्ट के ऊपर कितने वाल्व्स है? हार्ट में देयर आर 4 हार्ट वाल्व्स. पहला होता है आपका ट्राइकस्पिड वाल्व, दूसरा है मिट्रल वाल्व, तीसरा है आवर्टिक सेमिलुनर वाल्व एंड चौथा है पल्मोनरी सेमिलुनर वाल्व. they are known as a fibrous skeleton of your heart. They electrically insulate the ventricles from atrium. The same thing over here. epicardium मतलब क्या है? सीरस मेम्ब्रेन ऑन द सरफेस ऑफ मायोकार्डियम. मायोकार्डियम मतलब मसल लेयर एंडोकार्डियम. ये पूरा हो चुका है. Now we have seen the heart. Okay? You can see different valves. So this one is known as a this one is known as a tricuspid valve. Tricuspid valve क्योंकि इसमें क्या है? त्रिकस्प है. Tricuspid valve. It is attached to a fibrous muscle, elastic muscle via fibers known as a chordae tendineae. Chordae tendineae. ये क्या है? Papillary muscle which is a fibrous elastic muscle. So valve present in the right atrium and right ventricle. Right atrium ventricle. Between that there is a tricuspid valve known as a arterioventricular valve. In between the left ventricle and left auricle there is a left auricle. There is a bicuspid valve or mitral valve. पहला tricuspid क्यों बोलते हैं? There are 3 cusps. There are 3 flaps. Here bicuspid means 2 flaps. Right? And in the aorta you have aortic semilunar valve. In the pulmonary vessel, pulmonary artery you have pulmonary semilunar valve. Systemic circulation मतलब क्या? It is known as the major circulation. Systemic circulation known as the major circulation. So flow of blood from the various organs. Left side of your heart consists of oxygenated blood that is sent to aorta to your different organs. So here exchange of gases takes place between the cells, tissue and blood, and then deoxygenated blood is returned to your heart to a right atrium. Right atrium will send blood into right ventricle. From right ventricle blood will go to the lungs for the purification via pulmonary artery. Here again there is diffusion of carbon dioxide outside and deposition of oxygen in the blood. Now oxygenated blood will be carried via 4 pulmonary veins to the left atrium. Right? This is the blood flow in the heart. Now important parameters and their description. सबसे पहले heart sound. Now you cannot hear heart sound usually, but if you place a diaphragm, if you place a stethoscope just near to your chest, left side of your chest, है ना, आप ऐसे ही हार्ट साउंड नहीं सुन सकते. अगर आपने ईयर छाती पे रख के कान सुनना का ट्राई किया तो आपको साउंड आएगा. बट इफ यू ट्राई टू लिसन हार्ट साउंड बाय स्टेथोस्कोप, सो देयर आर 2 मोस्ट प्रोमिनेंट साउंड. 2 साउंड आइडेंटिफाई होते हैं. पहला होता है लब, है ना, दूसरा होता है डब. लब डब, है ना. So लब डब. So लब is because of the लब sound is a loud sound एंड इट ड्यू टू द क्लोजर ऑफ आर्टेरियोवेंट्रिकुलर वॉल। जो आर्टेरिया कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होता है तो ब्लड वेंट्रिकल्स में जाता है और वेंट्रिकल से फिर से एट्रियम में न आए, इसलिए वॉल होता है। ड्यू टू क्लोजर ऑफ आर्टेरियोवेंट्रिकुलर वॉल you are getting a lub sound. Now dub sound is because of the dub is a softer sound, मतलब ये थोड़ा सा कम होता है. It is due to the closure of aortic and pulmonary seminal valve. तो है ना, after the contraction of your ventricles, जब वेंट्रिकल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होंगे तब ब्लड वेंट्रिकल से राइट वेंट्रिकल से जाएगा पल्मोनरी आर्टरी में, लेफ्ट वेंट्रिकल से जाएगा आवर्टा में, तो वो ब्लड पीछे ना आ जाए, इसलिए aortic seminal valve and pulmonary seminal valve. Lub sound is because of the closure of arterioventricular valve, and dub sound is because of the closure of pulmonary seminal valve and aortic seminal valve. Now heart rate. Normal heart rate कितना है? Normally heart will beat 60 to 80 beats per minute. What is a pulse? Okay. Now 60 to 80 signals are generated by SA node that is propagated through a conducting pathway or conduction system of heart. Heart will beat around 72 beats per minute, 70 to 74. Some books have written 74. Abnormal heart rate is known as arrhythmia. तो cardiac arrhythmia क्या होता है? Abnormal heart rate. Abnormal heart rate is known as arrhythmia. Abnormal heart beating is known as arrhythmia. So decrease in the heart rate than normal heart rate से मतलब 60 to 80 is normal around, है ना, जैसे मान लीजिए 40 है, so that is known as a bradycardia. Decrease in the heart rate known as a bradycardia, and increase in the heart rate is known as a tachycardia. Increase in the heart rate known as a tachycardia and decrease in the heart rate known as a bradycardia. ठीक है. अब कार्डियक आउटपुट वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन भी आ चुके हैं बहुत बार. तो कार्डियक आउटपुट इज नथिंग बट द, व्हाट इज कार्डियक आउटपुट? इट इज नथिंग बट द अमाउंट ऑफ ब्लड दैट इज पासिंग थ्रू ए पर यूनिट टाइम आफ्टर ईच कॉन्ट्रैक्शन ऑफ योर हार्ट. एक मिनट में, है ना, वो इन 1 मिनट हार्ट से कितना ब्लड जा रहा है ना, कितना ब्लड जा रहा है 1 मिनट में हार्ट से कितना ब्लड जा रहा है. कार्डियक आउटपुट इज नथिंग बट द अमाउंट ऑफ ब्लड दैट इज flowing or that is pumped from the heart per unit time. So cardiac output, it is calculated as a stroke volume into heart rate. क्या है? stroke volume into heart rate. तो stroke volume क्या है? It is nothing but the volume of blood that is being ejected every beat of your heart. The volume of blood that is being ejected from left ventricle of your heart on every contraction, so it is around 70 ml. देखो stroke volume into heart rate. Now normal stroke volume कितना होता है? Around 70 ml. Heart rate is also around 72 beats per minute. तो 70 into 70 और 70 into 72 और 70 into 74 ऐसा भी करेंगे, it will come nearby 5 liters. तो कार्डियक आउटपुट इज नॉर्मली 5 liters. इसके ऊपर भी क्वेश्चन आ चुका है, फॉर्मूले के ऊपर भी क्वेश्चन आ चुका है. Stroke volume is nothing but is equal to cardiac output divided by pulse. Cardiac output है आपका 5 लीटर, है ना, पल्स होता है आपका 50 to 100 ml. You can also calculate. Now due to exercise, stroke volume may increase. Due to exercise, stroke volume may increase. जैसे normal stroke volume 70 to 100 ml होता है. In exercise, it can be around 150 also. Normal stretching because of the exercise, so venous return will also increases due to heavy exercise. Stroke volume will increase, cardiac output will increase, and venous return to the heart will increase. So venous return to heart will increase. That will cause stretch on the myocardial vessel, myocardial muscle of heart. It is known as a Stirling law. And if अगर यही कार्डियक आउटपुट कम हो रहा है, वेनस रिटर्न ज़्यादा हो रहा है, सपोज इफ देयर इज अ लेस कार्डियक आउटपुट एंड देयर इज अ इंक्रीज द वेनस रिटर्न, तो आपके हार्ट में ब्लड ज़्यादा आ रहा है, हार्ट से बाहर ब्लड कम जा रहा है, तो इन दैट केस मोर ब्लड विल बी एक्यूमुलेटेड इन योर हार्ट एंड योर हार्ट मसल विल बी स्ट्रेच, और आपका हार्ट क्या है, फूल जाएगा, और दैट इज नॉट हार्ट फेलियर. इजेक्शन फ्रैक्शन एंड कार्डियक रिजर्व. नॉर्मल इजेक्शन फ्रैक्शन क्या होता है, दिस अमाउंट ऑफ percentage of blood that is being ejected from left ventricle, so around 60 to 70%. Normal ejection fraction is 60 to 70%. important है, percentage of blood within a ventricle that is pumped per beat, pumped out per beat, that is normal ejection fraction. अगर ये इससे कम है, if ejection fraction is less than 50, if ejection fraction is less than 50%, it is nothing but the heart failure, heart will fail. Normal cardiac reserve is a 15 liter. The more its difference between resting cardiac output and maximum output during exercise. Ejection fraction, and most reliable measure of cardiac output is nothing but the left ventricular ejection fraction. इसको आप बोलते हैं लेफ्ट वेंट्रिकुलर ejection fraction, LVEF, left ventricular ejection fraction. It is the most accurate measure of cardiac output, है ना, ये क्वेश्चन ऑलरेडी आ चुका है. Now ECG, है ना, ECG, है ना, you can see over here, तो इलेक्ट्रिकल एक्टिविटी ऑफ हार्ट कैन बी रिकॉर्डेड. जैसे आपके चेस्ट में इलेक्ट्रोड लगा के, है ना, आपके हैंड में इलेक्ट्रोड लगा के, यू कैन रिकॉर्ड द एक्टिविटी ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिकल एक्टिविटी ऑफ योर हार्ट. तो यू विल गेट दिस, जैसे मान लीजिए ये 0.8 सेकंड का होता है ना, या फिर 1 मिनट कर लेंगे. तो इनिशियली यू विल गेट अ पी वेव. पी वेव इज बिकॉज ऑफ द एट्रियल कॉन्ट्रैक्शन. जब आपका एट्रियो वेंट्रिकुलर वाल्व क्लोज होता है, so that is because of the P wave. At this time atria is contracted. Now there is some time gap, and then QRS complex. It is known QRS complex. QRS complex is because of the ventricular system. Ventricle जब contract होंगे तो QRS complex होता है. And then T wave. T is nothing but the ventricular relaxation. Relaxation हो गए, और बाद में फिर से बेस लाइन आएगा, फिर से बाद में ये चालू. ECG, इलेक्ट्रोकार्डियोग्राम. ECG मतलब क्या, इलेक्ट्रोकार्डियोग्राम. ECG इलेक्ट्रोकार्डियोग्राम, हार्ट का इलेक्ट्रिकल एक्टिविटी आपको रिकॉर्ड करना है. दैट विल गिव यू आइडिया अबाउट द फंक्शनिंग ऑफ योर हार्ट. So P wave is because of the arterial depolarization, QRS complex due to ventricular depolarization and arterial repolarization, P wave ventricular repolarization. So PR interval मतलब क्या, P wave and R wave जो है इसके बीच में जो टाइम गैप है, the time gap between P and R, this time gap, the PR interval. So one set of P wave and one set of Q wave, that is the PR interval. The time gap between one set of P and one set of Q, known as, that is the in between that arterial depolarization and conduction through AV node. तो अगर conduction में कोई defect है, if there is a conduction defect, then there is an increase in the PR interval. PR interval ये जैसे एंटीआरिथमिक ड्रग बढ़ाते हैं, QT इंटरवल PR इंटरवल होगा. नाउ नेक्स्ट QT इंटरवल मतलब क्या, Q वेव एंड T वेव, यहाँ से लेके यहाँ तक जो इंटरवल है, the onset of Q and end of T wave, onset of Q and end of T wave. So ventricular depolarization and ventricular repolarization. So most of the antiarrhythmic drug, they increase the QT length. में स्लो डाउन करते हैं, कंडक्शन वेलोसिटी डिक्रीज करते हैं. दैट्स व्हाई देयर इज अ elongation in the ECG. ST segment एस एन टी के बीच में जो वेव है एस एन टी टाइम लाइन, तो एंड ऑफ एस वेव एंड ऑनसेट ऑफ टी वेव, इट इज आइसोइलेक्ट्रिक, मतलब most of the anti-arrhythmic drug they will prolong the QT interval, yeah? And that's why those drug which will prolong the QT interval they can cause arrhythmia, जैसे सीसाप्राइड हो गया, मोसाप्राइड हो गया, या फिर आपका फ्लोरोक्विनोन में से, है ना, या फिर आपका जितने भी ड्रग्स बैन किए बिकॉज ऑफ द QT इंटरवल, दे इंक्रीज द QT इंटरवल इन योर हार्ट and produces the arrhythmia. Next one is stroke volume. Stroke volume क्या है? It is determined by movement of blood in the ventricle before they can contract. तो ventricle contract करने के पहले कितना blood है, that is known as stroke volume, and also known as the ventricular end diastolic volume. इसको अपन बोलते हैं ventricular end diastolic volume भी, है ना, ventricular end diastolic volume, and also known as a preload. कोई अपन preload बोलते हैं. Preload आफ्टर लोड टर्म्स इंपॉर्टेंट है एंजाइना के लिए, एंजाइना पेक्टोरिस. व्हाट इज प्रीलोड? सो अमाउंट ऑफ और वॉल्यूम ऑफ blood present in the ventricle before they contacts, known as a ventricular end diastolic volume, VED, VED, known as the preload. Now AP मतलब क्या? Arterial pressure. So arterial blood pressure is also affect stroke volume and create a resistance to the blood being pumped. blood pressure क्या है? blood pressure तो है आपका cardiac output into peripheral resistance. ये फॉर्मूला आपको याद रखना है, because this on this formula you can understand whole anti-hypertensive chapter, cardiac output and peripheral resistance. It is increased by exercise, increase the body temperature. Normal blood pressure आपको होता है around 120/80 mm of Hg. So out of that ये 120 जो that is known as systolic blood pressure. Systolic blood pressure, and 80 is nothing but the diastolic blood pressure, and the difference between systolic and diastolic is the pulse pressure. तो ये 120/80 जो है ना, 120 is systolic, 80 is a diastolic, और इसके बीच में जो डिफरेंस है 40 का, है ना, that is known as the pulse pressure. the 40 difference है वो that is known as pulse pressure. Systolic, diastolic and pulse pressure. In the other word, you can say 16/18 kilopascal. Now hypertension means what? More than hypertension means what? Blood pressure more than normal. Hypertension means what? Blood pressure less than normal. Both are the disorders of your blood pressure. Now tomorrow we'll see the control of blood pressure. And a very important. Tomorrow we'll see the control of blood pressure. Very important part of control of blood pressure. Tomorrow will be the last lecture for this cardiovascular system. बाद में अपन ड्रग एक्टिंग ऑन सीरीज स्टार्ट करें. Tomorrow we'll see the control of blood pressure. मेरा भी तबियत ठीक नहीं.